All right, so we want to just take a moment to talk about some of the sort of the people and the more human side of what's been going on in football in the last few days, and note a couple, two or three events, and in one case evolving situations, and then we'll talk about what's going on with the actual game. So first of all, Alan Hansen has been sick and unwell. We don't know a lot about what's going on. It's been in the news for the last week. Alan Hansen was a great Scottish and Liverpool football player and played for I think played for another firm in Scotland before that. But Alan Hansen is sort of a legend and one of those people I was always aware of. The good news is it sounds like he is on the mend and doing better. Graham Souness, another Liverpool legend and Scottish football legend, has updated the press and said that he seems to be doing better. So that's fantastic. So we just wish him well and hope that he's okay.
Yes.
Sadly, two players have died in recent days, and so I just thought we should mention that. And this is part of us, for me, learning about these people and highlighting things that we don't necessarily know for people like me and maybe even for you. So Kevin Campbell, first of all, died at a relatively young age of 54, former Arsenal and Everton striker, and then latterly a pundit, and he died suddenly just in the last few days. And then another player, much younger, 26-year-old Matija Sarkic, uh, died. He played for Millwall in the EFL and died very unexpectedly. Grew up in Montenegro, but actually was born in the UK. So another interesting fact is just the small world that we live in. He was born in England, but grew up in Montenegro and then came back to play at a fairly high level and did very well internationally as well. So, having noted those bits of news, two sad pieces and one hopeful piece of news, why don't we move on and talk about football?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you shared a message with me. Do you want to bring up the next topic?
yeah. I think one of the things that, and I don't know what happened exactly with the death of the younger player in their 20s, right?
Yep.
But something that was very high profile, I think it was at the last year's, was Christian Eriksen collapsing on the field.
Mhm.
Player for Denmark international, now plays for Manchester United.
Yeah.
Not as good of a beard here as my colleague, but he was a very high profile case. He's obviously like back and playing and represented Denmark. I think they played yesterday or recently. I
Yeah,
think they had a
I
match
saw
already,
that.
and I think he scored. So and he also scored. And so, but I bring this up not because he's necessarily the example of like an overworked player, but just an example that like, hey, these are human beings. They're not robots. They're not just like they don't have some like exact shelf life till this age and then it's over. Like there are a lot of things that are affecting the body and the mind and that mind body connection. And players right now have been going through a lot with international competition and club competition as the sport has grown as a global business. So the organizers of the sport have sought to cash in, and what's happened recently is the players union. It looks like they've submitted their first like official salvo to fight back against what is called the FIFA Club World Cup. And for those that don't know football, there's not just one season in football. There's not just one thing to win. There's a bunch of stuff that you try to win. Actually, sometimes it's concurrently, and and this is for a bunch of reasons. But this one is mostly about money. If we
Mhm.
just don't want to be real about it. The FIFA Club World Cup is really about money, and as fans and supporters of the game, right, and like who enjoy this kind of entertainment, our thing is we want to see the players be able to play at their best level all the time,
Yep.
basically. And when you have players going through obviously no breaks, I mean, here we are in the Euros and the Copa America and the Olympics,
Yep.
okay, and and then there's going to be a World Cup coming soon, and then there's this, and now they're trying to make a more global club game. It just really puts a lot of pressure on the players, and I think just a reminder too, they're the ones also generating a lot of revenue for the club, right? And so just thinking about the exploitation of these players as individuals, as laborers.
That's, I think, a really great topic to bring up. And I think also what you just did was highlight that not everyone may know about, say, the FIFA Club World Cup. You may say World Cup and everyone thinks, oh, it's the international or national teams playing against each other. There's this other competition, which is maybe not so familiar to everyone. And one of the things hopefully we can do is just start to talk about these things in a way that sort of helps people understand what's going on. Because you can probably watch top level football slash soccer almost every week,
Yes.
of the year, if not every day. There's something going on at a high level. That level of sort of energy and sort of physical and mental stress that is put on players. I mean, we think about it in other sports. You hear about concussions, whether it's American football or rugby or hockey or some of these other sports. But with soccer and or football, it's a different kind of impact. But players are really stretched out. You don't see basketball players playing, you know, hundreds of games a year in the same way that you see football players being sort of put through that their pace, and it's high intensity. You've got constant
Yeah.
movement for 90 plus minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and
So
then
it's going to be,
go ahead.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how players and managers have also pushed back on the on schedule congestion, if you will, or you know um, rotating squads when you have a rich enough club where you can do those kind of things to be able to compete in tournaments, make money,
Mhm.
and still keep going.
That's
So I
one of the
think this is going to be more. You hear more managers and players bringing this up.
That's right, and there's one of the tensions that we see as there's more money coming into soccer, and in particular in the Premier
Hmm.
League in England.
Hmm.
It's really changing the way that the sport is managed and played, and you see this with big corporate interests coming in buying clubs or billionaires buying
Yeah.
clubs. The way that stadiums are built, and this is another topic for another time, but just the way that people, the experiences that they have when they're at a match is very different from what we're used to in the US with,
Oh
sort of,
yes.
you're paying $15 for a hot dog and $15 for a beer, and there's 16 different kind of options in different parts of the ballpark or the stadium wherever you are. And that's not the way historically that football's been, but the commercial interests and pressures are sort of coming to bear on top level football.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about all of that at some point. And I do, but one last thought I have is we saw this in with Liverpool in the last season, where because the bench unexpectedly was so deep and so rich, Klopp was able to kind of manage and compete at a very high level until the last few months. Really, it seemed like he was sort of working wonders and able to kind of keep everyone enough people healthy that he could field a sort of winning team. But people start to break down, and whether it's injuries or just energy, mental, physical energy, you know, c- keeping that going across four competitions, not counting internationals, throughout a season is just really unbelievably difficult and maybe too much.